challenges you face, how difficult it can be to get your products and services out there, to get enough visibility for them. Thankfully, obviously, the internet's made things a lot easier over the years, but having said that, it's still very important for people involved in marketing to know what kind of strategies are available, what kind of strategies are suitable for their businesses, because not every strategy suits every business. And also, it's important to know what tools are available, what kind of tools you can use to implement those strategies effectively and get the best possible results. So I'm very excited to be talking about SEO today, search engine optimization. Now, search engine optimization is a strategy that can give you very good results over a period of time. It's something that's especially suitable for small to medium-sized businesses, but at the same time, it's not a strategy that may be the best fit for every single business. So what we're going to do today is, first of all, I'm going to do a presentation of about 15 minutes, talking about the different types of digital marketing that are available, what's suitable for different businesses, and also what you can get, especially with pay-per-click marketing, for example, pay-per-click advertising, which is something that people often compare with SEO. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how that compares with SEO, so you can decide for yourself which one of the two strategies is better for you, or if something else is more suitable. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have a quick Q&A session, so you can ask me any questions. You can just, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can hold on to those questions until the Q&A session, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And then we'll break for a 15-minute period, have snacks and mingle with each other, and then we'll continue and move on to the more in-depth part of the presentation, which is more about actually talking about how to implement SEO, what kind of SEO steps we need to take, the basic steps, the fundamental steps that we need to take, what steps there are to take, why we need to take those steps, and also whether, there will be certain websites that are not ideally suitable for those steps to be taken, but what we'll do is we'll give you an idea of what tools can be used for different websites in order to implement those steps. So without further ado, I'll get started with the first part of the presentation. We'll talk about digital marketing to begin with. Do you mind if you guys move to the front, any of the guys to the back? Because then it becomes easier, I'm not sure. So we can start off talking about digital marketing. There are different types of digital marketing that a number of you would be familiar with. Some of you might already be using those for your companies, or might have encountered people targeting you in different situations with those techniques. Now, email marketing is a common one that almost everybody is aware of. This way you can have a database of prospects and clients that you can regularly interact with through email. You can send out regular messages to them, get their feedback, adjust your strategy accordingly as you go along. It's suitable for certain types of businesses more than others. Affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is a type of marketing where people actually are selling a brand or a number of brands, products and services. So they're kind of like getting a kickback for all the sales that they make. And the material sort of gets provided, in the majority of cases, it gets provided by the brand that they're working with, or the brands that they're working with, and it's more a case of tweaking those, the information that's provided to them in order to put them out there and get the right kind of visibility. Next is content marketing. Now that's something that's utilized, once again, some of you might already be quite familiar with it. Now, with content marketing, it's about creating content that's targeted towards the launch of a particular product or a service or some sort of an event. And with content marketing, the idea is content marketing goes hand in hand with social media in most cases. So the idea is that you would create content, whether it's video content, blog posts, or different types of campaigns that you can run for individual launches in particular. Yeah, it can be used. Sometimes people use content marketing on an ongoing basis. There are people that are doing it very effectively. Personal branding, they're doing it over a long period of time quite successfully. Social media marketing. Now, the logos you see there, most of you are, I'm sure, very familiar with. Now, this is where you can either go with the paid option or go with the organic option, where you can post good quality content that gets shared, but on the different types of social media, and you can get very good visibility both through the paid option as well as through the organic option. Different types of social media would be applicable for different types of businesses. If it's more visual, if it's more about, you want to put pictures and videos and things like that, then you want to go for more of the visual ones. If it's more about information sharing or more about getting people involved, the interaction part, then you're looking at something like Twitter and Facebook. Those platforms are much more effective. So it very much depends on the type of product or services that you're trying to promote. PPC advertising. Now that is a solution where you have platforms like social media platforms as well as search engines, where you have the platform providing you with the opportunity to put an advertisement on the platform. And as and when people click on your advertisement that you place on the platform, you will be charged a certain amount of money by that platform. The most common platforms providing this are Google. Used to be Google AdWords, now the solution is called Google Ads, and Facebook advertising. You also have Bing, Yahoo, and others as well. We'll talk a bit more about that too. But basically, the solution is one that enables you to put your products and services out there for a cost per click. And search engine optimization, which is basically about getting organic growth for your website's rankings, visibility, and then driving more traffic, more targeted traffic. By targeted traffic, I mean people who are actually searching for what you're providing, not just meaningless traffic. It's people who are actually physically searching for your products or your services. And SEO enables you to get high rankings, so you get those people who are more likely to be interested in what you're offering to come through to your website. And it's not something that is supposed to pay-per-click advertising. Search engine optimization doesn't cost you on a per-click basis. It's something that is organic, and apart from the effort that you put in getting your site up in the rankings, there is no additional cost involved. Obviously, like with any other solution, you can work with certain types of directories and blog service providers and things like that to get yourself higher up, but generally there is no additional cost involved. Now what I'm going to do is I'll just talk briefly about pay-per-click advertising, because that's seen as the main rival to SEO in most cases. So I'll briefly talk about that. These are the platforms that you get the pay-per-click, the most common platforms on which you have the option of doing pay-per-click advertising. Google AdWords being the most popular, but following the Google model, Yahoo and Bing Ads as well, they pretty much offer the same thing, which works pretty much the same way, except that the amount of people you can put your advertisement in front of is much, much smaller. The number of people would be much smaller considering the number of searches that are carried out on the other platforms. Then you have Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, basically pretty much every platform that's out there. They are providing, majority of them, the major ones, are providing an option for you to put an advertisement on their site. And the rates differ, but primarily the main way of doing it is by having a bidding process, going through a bidding process where people would bid a certain amount on a per-click basis, and for you to appear higher, for you to have your advertisement appearing higher than their advertisement, you have to bid higher. So if somebody's paying $2.50, you've got to pay $2.55, and then somebody else may come along and pay even higher, and just goes on like that. So the platform would always win, but there is an opportunity for you to be getting something out of it. Now, we're going to talk, as obviously today's talk is about SEO, so we're going to go into more depth in SEO. And I'm going to talk about SEO versus pay-per-click to begin with. Now, it's important to understand how search engines work and what is involved in, the background of how search results are delivered and how search engines perform, what the function that they do. Now, say for example, if you were to be searching for carpet cleaning in Melbourne, if you perform a search for this term in Google, we're going to use the example of Google because 92% of searches in Australia at least are being conducted in Google, and the other platforms are pretty much copying the Google model. There are times when the results you get are identical to the kind of results you get in Google, but the focus, as long as you get good results in Google, you're bound to get decent results in the other platforms as well. Yahoo Australia also uses Google as its backend. It's only Bing that's doing things slightly differently, but once again, the basic algorithm, the basic concepts are pretty much the same. So if I was to search for carpet cleaning in Melbourne, for example, I would get something that looks like this. I would get a few advertisements at the top, 2 or 3, depending on how many people are advertising for that particular search term. And then I would get 10, there's no room for 10, but generally you get 10 organic results, followed by 1 or 2 advertisements below those organic results. And basically that's what the PPC campaign, if you're conducting a PPC campaign, that's what that would get you, the advertisement section, that's where your advertisement would appear. So if you were to click on the first result, that guy, whoever's put the advertisement up there, he's going to get charged he or she is going to get charged a certain amount of money. And then the next person and the one after that. So that's basically how it works. Paid results at the top, organic results at the bottom. Even though organic results appear below the paid ads, generally, majority of users seem to understand that it's an advertisement, and the likelihood of you getting better visibility or better traffic coming through from organic is definitely higher. The chances are definitely higher for you to attract more traffic, simply because people tend to go for the actual organic results. So the general understanding is about 70% of the search results, when people search for something, they would click on the organic results. That's the general understanding. Of course, it can change depending on, it can change on a day-to-day basis, but yeah, that's the understanding. Now I'm going to do a quick comparison of SEO and PPC. SEO, the first thing people want to know usually is, do I get overnight results? If you're doing an SEO campaign, that's the first thing that people wonder, how quickly they can get results. If you're doing, if you need to promote a product or service for which you need to get instant results, like results by tomorrow or the day after, if you've got that sort of a product, you're launching something for Christmas maybe, SEO is not the solution for you. SEO is something that gets you results in the long run. So you will not get overnight results. With PPC, you can get overnight results. You could put out an advertisement this morning, it could get approved by the afternoon, and you could be up and running by the evening, getting people coming through to your website and possibly even making inquiries. So in that sense, PPC is much quicker, it delivers much quicker results. Then I'll quickly run through the table. Cost-wise, SEO costs you nothing to medium sort of costs, whereas PPC is something that's medium to high, simply because the more people get involved in advertising, the higher the costs go. And in most industries, even if you are from an industry where there's not so much competition, you will notice that over time, sometimes even within months, your competitors will see that you're actively advertising, and they will start advertising. They will try and find out how to get their advertisement above yours, or at least next to yours, and your costs will keep going upwards all the time. Lasting results, whether that's another good question, whether you get long-term results or short-term results. With SEO, you can expect longer-term results. So if you do optimization of your website for a 6-month period and stop doing it completely, you would still get traffic through your SEO efforts. Whereas when it comes to pay-per-click, the moment you stop paying, whether it's the search engine or the social media platform that you're advertising on, the moment you stop paying, the results disappear. You do not rank at all. ROI, because the costs are so much lower in SEO and you get more traffic coming through, if you do your SEO properly, you can get very high ROI with return on investment. Sometimes if you're not putting anything in, anything that comes through SEO is a good return, it's a fantastic return on investment. But generally speaking, SEO can get you very good results compared to what you get through PPC. It can vary with PPC. Sometimes you can get decent results if you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a minefield. It can cost you huge amounts of money without very good results. And it's a learning curve. But with SEO, you're not paying that kind of, or you're not paying any money. Sometimes you can even do it yourself. It doesn't cost you anything, so it doesn't hurt so much when it comes to the results. If the results are taking longer, SEO is still something you can value. Difficulty level, SEO is low to medium. Sometimes it can get a little tricky, but it is possible to know how to implement SEO. Whereas with PPC, the search engine or the social media platform, the PPC platform will make it as easy for you as possible because they're making money from you. So they want to be able to get your advertisement on their platform as quickly as possible. The difficulty level is very low. Traffic potential. Now here you're looking at the kind of traffic that comes through SEO. You can get unlimited traffic, basically, in the sense that as long as people are searching for your product or service and you are doing well in the results, in the organic results, you can keep getting traffic, as much traffic as you want. Whereas with PPC, it's limited by budget. So if you've set your daily budget to $100 or $200 or whatever, you're going to have a limitation in terms of how much traffic can come through. Or even on a per-click basis, there's going to be a limitation because unless you have unlimited funds. Listing domination. In SEO, it is technically possible to have a number of websites and you get a number of your websites to appear on the first page. There are people who are able to get 3 or 4 websites that are from the same industry to occupy 6 or 7 listings on the first page. And that sort of pushes all their competitors down to the second and reduces the amount of visibility they can get. So technically that is a possibility over time. Naturally, with one website, you can't occupy 6, 7 places, maybe 1 or 2, sometimes at most 3. But there are cases where people use the strategy of using multiple websites to get them all to rank as high as possible, push their competitors downwards. Competitor protection, that's a tricky one. With PPC, it's always possible for your competitors. If you have a very competitive industry, if you're from a competitive industry and your competitors are kind of not playing fair, they could click on your advertisements as much as they want, and every advertisement click is going to cost you money. With SEO, you don't have to worry about that. If they click on your link, it's not going to cost you anything because it's your effort. I mean, time is money, and obviously the amount of effort you put into it, that does make a difference. But it's not going to cost you any further on a per-click basis, which it will in case of PPC. Google does say there's protection in place, but if you read the fine print, there's not much protection in place. Even if it's clicks from the same IP address, Google still says it's possible for multiple people to be using the same IP address, searching for the same terms. So they do not give you much protection there. Algorithm protection. Google changes its algorithm over the last 3 years. Has changed it 500 to 600 times a year. Most of the changes are minor. Sometimes the changes can be more complicated. And every time they make a change, you have to make sure that your SEO strategy changes accordingly. So you don't have any protection there. And with PPC, obviously, they would not ever make a change that affects their own revenue. So there's complete protection in terms of PPC when it comes to algorithm changes. Demographic targeting. Now, SEO does not allow you to target a particular group of people, a particular age group, particular gender, particular part of the world. Part of the world we'll talk about later, but you don't have any kind of demographic targeting with SEO. SEO is basically targeting people who are searching for your products or services. The terms are key, and that's all it depends on. Whereas with PPC, you can actually specifically target. You could actually you could say, I want to be able to market these services to 18 to 24-year-old girls with 2 children in the city of Bristol in England. Technically, it's possible. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but yeah, if that is what your target market is, then that is something that PPC can enable you to do. So if you have particular types of products that are only suitable for particular people, then you can use demographic targeting through PPC. SEO doesn't allow you to do that, but at the same time, SEO enables you to attract people who are actually interested in what you're offering. Location targeting. SEO only allows you to target the location you're in at most. If you have a .com name, .com domain name, then you can technically target a country. You can choose the country of your choice and target that particular country. You can't say you want to target the state of Victoria with SEO, for example. You can actually do that with PPC. PPC allows you to be very specific. You can target particular suburbs even in some cases. So location targeting is a very strong point for PPC. SEO does not give you that. If you have a .com.au website, which most people will, then with SEO, automatically Google will deliver your website in search results in your region. So if you were searching for the same terms, the moment you go, say if you go to New Zealand, you do the same searches, you would not get the same results. because the results that you see are more likely to be from the New Zealand domain names. Now, these are the reason I've narrowed into these is because these are the areas where SEO becomes more attractive to a particular, for small businesses, because unless you're looking for overnight results, but the rest of them, because the costs are lower, you get longer term results, the ROI is higher, difficulty level is fairly reasonably low, and then the traffic potential is unlimited. How Google works. Just going to give you a quick idea of how the search engine actually delivers results for your searches. First thing Google and other search engines as well, the first thing that Google does is that it crawls the internet regularly. All the time Google is reading the internet using bots that get sent out from site to site, following every single link that they can find, and they try and gather as much information from as many websites as possible. That's the business they're in. That's what they've been best at doing for the last 15 years. So that's what Google does. To start off with, and once it reads that information, it organizes it and indexes it. Organizing it in the sense that it tries to make sense of what that information is. So it sort of gathers that information and then it records it in its database. So whatever is out there, whatever kind of website you have, Google would eventually go through it, if it's able to read what's on your website, it would read it and then put it in its index, because it can't, at this point in time, we do not have fast enough, the internet is not fast enough for them to deliver real-time results to you. So no search engine is going to be able to, yes, there are certain people who are trying to make a real effort in that direction, but generally search engines can't give you real-time results. They try and give you results based on what's in their index. When a search is carried out, the search engines would usually analyze your search terms, the ones you key in. If there are typos, then sometimes it tries to look past those typos. If you're using words that have synonyms, other words that sound similar even, it would try and make sense of what you might be searching for. Then it would try and match those terms with what's in its index, and then it would rank the different sites accordingly. Dynamically, it would rank them and return the results. So when you do a search, you get an instant set of results coming up. That's the process behind it. That's how Google works. And the ranking factors, if you're wondering what Google looks at before deciding how to rank a particular website, Google looks at more than 200 different factors. Now, the reason we've put it there like that is because that's how confusing it can be. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that there are certain factors that are a hell of a lot more important than others. And if you can't take care of all the factors, because you'd have to be a superhuman to be able to take care of all the factors that Google takes into account. But what you can do is you can actually look at the factors that are in your control, work on those, and compensate for the ones that you can't do. So if you can't, because there are certain factors like the domain authority. The domain authority is something that when you start off with a website, your domain authority is 0. The moment you register, your domain name is 0. It's going to grow from that point on. If you don't do anything with it, 5 years later, it will be 1 or 2. But the idea is the more effort you put into your domain name, I think you build it, you deploy a website on it, you do things with it, you create links to it, the other things that we'll talk about. But basically the domain authority would go up over time. It is possible to get your website to go from 0 domain authority to even about 20 in a 6-month period. Anything beyond 20, you're in a happier place, and if you go beyond 30 or further up, it's fantastic. You start to get. So all things being equal, if your domain has a higher domain authority, you're going to do better than something else. You have the same kind of website, everything's the same, but their domain authority is better. The page authority is about, that's a bit different from domain authority. Page authority is about Google's understanding of what information has been made available on that particular URL in the past. So if you have a website that has 5 pages, each page would have a different page authority. But the domain obviously would be the same domain authority across the board. Page authority, once again, it depends on how much effort you put into it to bring it up. Now, a number of these factors are linked to each other. So as you improve one of them, others will have a positive reaction to it, in more cases than you imagine. Now, content is an important part of it. Google is especially concerned about what content you put in your website, what kind of information you're providing. And it's very particular about the information being legit. The information has to be clear for people to understand. It has to be unique if possible. You have to make sure you're not just sort of replicating something else that somebody else has done. You just sort of take content from somewhere else. Your content, if it's unique, if it's original, if it's interesting, people, search engines are likely to give a better set of results for your website. Backlinks. Now that's something that is a major factor. Backlinks are about, a backlink technically is a hyperlink from one website to another. Now the whole internet is a set of backlinks. Everybody's linking to everybody else, and that's what how the internet's structured. And the more backlinks you have, in the old days it was much simpler. It was simply about who had how many links to whom. So if your website had 2 links and your competitor's website had 5 links, they would do better. But now it's different. If you have two links from Sydney Morning Herald and your competitor has 1 million links from rubbish websites, you're going to do better. So it's not about the number of links, it's about the quality of the links that you can attract to your website. User engagement. How people interact with your website when they come through to it. Do they immediately go back to the search engine to do another search, or do they interact with you a bit more? Google has a number of ways of keeping track of that. So that plays a big part. Internal linking, how your website's pages are linked with each other. Are they structured? Is your website structured properly? Is it sending people through from one page to another in a proper way, or do people get lost? Do people go back to the search engine to conduct further searches? Are there missing pages? Things like that. Brand signals. This is something that's becoming more and more important now. It didn't play a part 2 years ago. Now it's playing a much bigger role in search results. So if you have 2 websites that are essentially the same in every single way, I know theoretically it's possible. If you have 2 websites that are identical, but one of them more people are searching for by actually entering the website, the brand's name. So say, for example, if you have like, let's say, BMW and Toyota, that's a common example that people use. If people out there, if everything about the 2 websites is the same, but more people are actually searching for Toyota, then it's likely that Google will deliver Toyota for, say if you search for cars, then Google will deliver Toyota first and BMW second. Simply because people out there are searching for the brand name. So Google started paying a lot more attention to brands lately. On-page signals. On-page signals are the signals that Google can pick up from your website. This is the responsibility of the website owner, the website administrator. You have to make sure that the code of your website, the content of your website is as easy for the search engine to understand, and it's not trying to trick the search engine in any way, because you've got to keep in mind Google has some of the cleverest people in the world working for it. Good or bad, but basically they're very smart people. They are, every day they're spending time on working out how to catch websites that are trying to trick them in some way. Sometimes certain tricks work, and they work for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but once they find out, the more upset they feel about the trick you've played, the heavier the punishment will be. Punishments can be, if there's web spam going on, the punishment can be for a 6-month period, a year-long period, something like that. Sometimes they just don't rank certain websites. There are certain websites that could go from a particular position all the way 6 pages down or 10 pages down or something like that. And it can take you ages to recover from that. It can be down to, sometimes it's a case of, there are certain ways that Google can take action. Google does give you that information in certain cases. There are 2 ways that Google penalizes you. One is automatic penalties, another one is manual penalties. If it's a manual penalty, they would actually tell you. If it's automatic, you've got to figure it out yourself. And then off-page signals. Off-page signals are signals in regards to your website that Google picks up from the internet, from other places on the internet. sum it all up, these are basically, now this is something that's available freely on the internet. It's something that looks a bit like something that I'm sure you guys saw in school, like a periodic table of elements. Gives you an indication of the way Google looks at stuff. There is the content column, what kind of things you need to look out for, what kind of things you need to pay attention to. You've got to look at the ones at the top, which give you more points. Now these factors can change over time, and when Google makes changes to its algorithm, these are the sort of things that they take into account. Now, content-wise, you've got to make sure the quality is good, you've done your research, you're putting in the right kind of words, you don't stuff your website with certain keywords. So if you find out that, using the example that we were working with carpet cleaning, for example, and you just put in carpet cleaning all the way through, Google's going to not be impressed. Same, so that's the case with content. If your website doesn't have much content that Google agreed, that falls under the thin content section. You're not going to get much love from Google simply because Google is very much interested in the kind of content you're providing. Architecture, how you constructed the website, how easy it is for the search engines to read and for users to follow. So that's something that's very important. Your website structure has to be in order, and you have to make sure you don't do any cloaking. Cloaking is a tricky activity where you use, those are basically dodgy means of trying to get, you have a particular address and you sort of forward a particular URL to another URL to try and trick the search engine. You get better visibility for one URL, and over time you transfer that traffic to another website, thinking that that's going to get you long-term traffic. Going through the others, HTML, you need to make sure your code is in order. You need to make sure your website is, when it comes to off-page SEO, you need to build the authority of your website. You need to have the right kind of links, avoid the bad kind of links. I'm going through this quickly because when we get into deeper with SEO, the SEO steps to take in the second session, that's when I'll go through the steps that you need to worry about to begin with. There's no point worrying about the heavier things when you've got the basic things to fix in your website. So these are the things to look at, the kind of links you have in terms of which region your domain name is automatically targeting, what kind of social reputation you have, and things like that. Then you can actually get a copy of this from the internet. Just do a search, periodic table, SEO, you'll find a good version of this. Okay. Now, how to do SEO? 3 things you need to worry about. At the core of it, there are 3 areas. One of them is to link your site properly with Google. Now, there are people who are putting a lot of effort into their websites, but they don't have the first thing figured out, which is to link their site with Google. You may have everything in place, but if you don't have a proper sitemap, it becomes difficult for the search engine to read what's in there, or at least to follow what pages are in there. If you don't, robots, we're going to go into more depth afterwards, but robots are basically designed to tell the search engines what to look for in your website. Your website has to have good health. It can't be a website that keeps going down. A lot of people choose the cheapest hosting company, and that's not it's going to be only good for you on the first day when you're actually paying for the hosting services, but subsequently, if your hosting keeps going down, if you have any indication from anyone that they're not able to access your website at any stage, speak to your hosting company. You don't want to have a website that keeps not being available regularly. You need to avoid penalties. So this part is about your link with Google. Now the other thing is on-page SEO. Most of these things most of these things will target later on, but basically you need to identify the right sort of keywords. There's no point in just getting your site up there without actually understanding what those keywords are going to do for you. So you could get very huge amounts of traffic that's meaningless because you're appearing for the wrong search results, or you could get bogged down in, or you could get stuck in traffic. You may have like a particular set of keywords that everybody's targeting. Yes, it would be nice to be up there, but if you've got 50 people in front of you, it's going to take you a while to go past those 50 people. Technically, it's possible, but you would be punishing yourself over a 2-year period. You have to do a lot of SEO work on a regular basis. Keyword optimization and synonyms, you need to make sure that you're optimizing your site properly for those keywords. Your website needs to have a responsive design, so mobile is becoming more and more important, as most of us know. Most searches are being carried out, more and more searches are being carried out in mobile now. So the idea is your website. If you have a wonderful website, sometimes people fall so madly in love with their websites that they think, oh, this is it, I'm just going to stick with this website for as long as possible. And if it doesn't load on mobile, Google's not going to fall in love with your website. So you're going to be suffering from that if your website's not responsive. So you need to make sure your website loads properly on mobile platforms. And not just one particular mobile platform, across the board. Every mobile platform you should ideally try it out on, or as many as possible. I would suggest Android and Apple, two most common ones. So if you're doing okay in those platforms, then you're not going to be getting yourself into too much trouble. Internal linking, you need to make sure the links are done properly. Page load speed, how quickly your website loads. So it's not, with your hosting company, you don't just need to worry about the availability of your website, you also need to worry about the loading speed. Some websites, because of the heavy content that they have, they can take ages to load, and that doesn't go down very well with search engines. If your website takes more than 5-6 seconds to load, you will start to run into problems. I would say 7 seconds is a reasonable-ish duration to work with, but beyond that, you would get yourself into hot water with Google. Image optimization. You can have nice images on your website, but you need to make sure they are optimized so they load fast enough. Alt text for images. Not everybody is able to read everything on their mobile, or well, even desktops. Not everybody is able to read images, but everybody is able to see images. And what search engines want to be able to do is for you to provide alt text, which basically gives the reader an idea of what the image is about. So if you're using a browser, using your browser in such a way that you don't load images for whatever reason, maybe you're in a location where the internet is slower, if your images have alt text, search engines are going to be happier with it because visitors can actually read those images, at least read the text that those images are about. URL structure, you need to have the right kind of structure for your website. You need to follow a particular format so it's easy for the users as well as the search engines to read how your website is structured. Tags and headings, you need to make sure that in every page you indicate what the page is about in terms of title, description, things like that. So search engines can understand it better. When it comes to off-page, you need to have high-quality backlinks, which I talked about before. You need to get rid of bad backlinks. Social media used to play a much bigger part, but people started gaming it a lot more, so search engines, at least for the time being, don't pay attention to it. Google started paying more attention to it, and Google launched Google+. But Google+ couldn't compete with Facebook, so Google basically said social media is not important for social signals. At least the social media signals may be very good for user interaction, to be able to interact with your prospects, but when it comes to SEO, social media is not going to do you much good. It doesn't make any difference. Yes, blogging. That's something that you can, if you feel that you have a good amount of knowledge about your industry or about a particular subject, go contact people, post things on there. If they provide guest blogging services, you can actually post blogs there, and usually with most such websites, people would give you the opportunity to put a link back to your site. It doesn't happen often, but there are people doing that, creating links from blog sites. Once again, blog sites used to be much more popular, but now you can, once again, it gets gamed by certain people. People create automated blog posts, thousands of them within a day, and it doesn't go down very well, so you need to make sure you don't get too excited about that. So yeah, if you take care of all of these things, you would get very good results from SEO. But like I said, in the second session, we'll go more in depth in terms of how to implement the individual parts of SEO. We'll talk about 10 different things that you need to do. And we'll talk about the tools that you can use to implement those things. Because just going through it, I'm sure some of you would have heard that these things need to be done, but if you don't know the tools to do them with, you have problems. We'll talk about that after our little break, but before the break, if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
So if I have like a service-based business, which would be for Australia, Melbourne, then is it better to have a .com
You can work with either, because .com would still allow you to
Be from Australia.
set which region you're targeting. So you can actually have either. But .com.au would, most people would go with .com.au. Majority of websites in Australia would have .au at the end, unless you're talking about a service that's for other parts of the world as well. But if you're targeting a particular state or particular city, then I would say .com.au would be a better option. And you have more options available as well when it comes to registering the domain name, because .coms are available worldwide, and most of the good names are taken when it comes to .com, unless you have a very unique brand name.
Question.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you search for an exact brand name like Toyota, and then the first organic result is the Toyota website, and then there's always this advert of the Toyota site itself. What is the purpose of this advert?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because you would, generally you would all think that they're just wasting their money by putting an advertisement out there. But sometimes you'd notice when you search for a particular brand, you'd find their competitors are also advertising for that brand name. So when you search for Toyota, do you see Honda, or do you see Nissan, or some other brands just below it?
I don't know.
I've not done a search on Toyota recently, but yeah, generally, if you see the results below it, you would get other brands, because sometimes people are not, they might be searching for Toyota, but they may be interested in looking at other brands as well, similar sort of cars. So if you're searching for Toyota, you won't get Ferrari coming up, because Ferrari also, that it's a different type of market. But other brands, similar cars, economical cars, would come up. So sometimes people, and if it's just their name coming up and no other names coming up, sometimes because people are they don't want to be in a situation where people search for Toyota and they're not putting themselves out there, even though they're appearing in organic results, they just worry maybe they'll lose 10%, or even if it's 1%, it's too much of a loss for them.
What does Google recognize as your brand? For instance, if your domain isn't your exact brand name, does it recognize the domain name as the brand, or how does that work for brand superglue?
Yeah, that's a good point. Google actually has a way of linking different entities, digital entities online, that are related to your business. So Google would look at your Google business page, Google would look at your website, and Google would look at other citations and things like that are available online, and it would also your Facebook page. That's where social media can play a part, but not in terms of rankings. But social media can enable Google to read more into what your brand really is. So yeah, you don't have to have your website with the same with your brand name.
Okay, I also want to ask how do you basically improve your domain authority?
Domain authority is something that gradually improves based on the backlinks you get, based on the content you put in, and the sort of optimization work that you do. Optimization by on-page optimization work, I mean fixing the code of the website, and we're going to go into more depth about that. So yeah, the stuff that we'll cover after the break will be to do with how to improve your domain authority, page authority, things like that. But yeah, mainly it's about how much optimization work you carry out. Google has to get the right sort of signals from the website, as well as no wrong signals. So if your website has any history of cloaking or any history of bad backlinks coming in, you need to get rid of them as quickly as possible as well, because they can make your domain authority drop even sometimes. Any other questions? Yeah? Okay, excellent. Let's just break for 15 minutes, and then we'll continue with how to do SEO part. So we'll get into the basic techniques and the more exciting area.